The Japanese government, just like most other comparable governments, runs various initiatives for the promotion of Japanese media and culture overseas. Unlike in other countries, however, the Japanese initiative in particular is subject to a bizarre conspiracy theory in the West. The conspiracy theory states that the so-called Cool Japan program is a ploy to somehow distract from or make people, specifically Westerners, forget about historical atrocities. This standard is rarely applied in other contexts. For example, I bet you've never heard someone say that Thailand's culinary diplomacy program exists to distract from the 6th of October 1976 massacre of leftists and student activists. Conspiracy theories often operate like this. There's an initial grain of truth. In this case, the Japanese government invests in promoting its arts and culture overseas. Then there is some reasonable Occam's razor logic behind this truth. In this case, because arts and culture bring in a lot of money to the Japanese economy through exports and tourism. Then that logical explanation is discarded in favor of a more outlandish theory which poses a sinister hidden motivation behind it all. In this case, that it's actually to make people forget about comfort women. Right off the bat, the theory doesn't make any sense if you think about it for 2 seconds. You probably didn't know about the aforementioned 6th of October massacre in Thailand, because while Thailand does strongly promote a version of its cuisine to foreign markets, Thai soft power is not among the strongest in the world like Japan's is. Which is why you can find 2.5-hour long video essays about Japan's historical atrocities, but not about the atrocities currently being committed by the military junta in Myanmar. The more foreigners have a strong attachment to a country's culture and history, the more they're going to find out about the dark periods in that history. If you're going to say that the Cool Japan project has been designed to hide Imperial Japan's actions, you must also accept that it has objectively had the opposite of the intended effect and been a colossal failure. If that were the case, why then has the Japanese government continued to renew and refresh the program year over year? The only reasonable explanation is what I said earlier. The Cool Japan program exists to promote exports and tourism, not cover up war crimes. Now I want to talk more specifically about Cool Japan, what it is, and in particular how it relates to anime. From hearing people talk about it on the internet, I had initially assumed that Cool Japan was an arts grant program, but it turns out that Cool Japan is actually a broader name for a number of initiatives. It does include an arts grant program, the Japan Arts Council, but that funds traditional theatre such as kabuki and no. The funding program people are talking about is specifically the Cool Japan Fund. The Cool Japan Fund is not a grant program, it's a private equity firm. They don't just go around flinging money into the pockets of anime studios, they're an investment fund trying to make a profit. And they have a website, in English, and you can just go and look at what they invest in. Atona Impact Fund, a real estate fund investing in Atona-branded luxury hot spring ryokans showcasing the distinct culture and natural landscapes of Japan. Good Pair Days, wine sales platform business to expand distribution of Japanese sake in Australia and the UK. CLK Cold Storage Co., operating a cold storage chain in Vietnam. Presumably that's for transporting perishable food and stuff. Gojek, Southeast Asia's leading on-demand multi-service tech platform. Global Next Atom PTE, food processing plants in Taiwan and China to support Japanese food service companies running businesses overseas. Gulf Japan Food Fund, a fund for promoting Japanese food and agriculture exports to the Middle East. Jumpstart, which installs vending machines equipped with cashless and AI functionality to sell Japanese beverages, confectionery, and snacks in Indonesia. Miyako Capital, a fund that aims to nurture globally competitive venture businesses mainly in healthcare and advanced technology industries. You get the picture, it's all extremely boring stuff. I will now go through every investment the Cool Japan Fund has ever made relating to the anime industry. In 2015, they invested in Kadokawa. Now, Kadokawa is a giant media conglomerate in Japan who have a lot of hands in a lot of pies. You might know them for owning FromSoft, the company that makes Dark Souls. Kadokawa also owns Dogakobo, an anime studio you might have heard of for making Oshinoko, Gabriel Dropout, Himoto Umaru-chan, Yuri Yuri, Senko-san, Plastic Memories, I could go on. They mostly make anime targeted at otaku that airs late at night. For example, Oshinoko aired at 11 PM, Umaru-chan at 2 AM, and Plastic Memories at 12:30 midnight. It would be unfair to call Dogakobo's anime obscure, but they have historically seemed to focus on slightly more niche, bishoujo-centric stuff. Kadokawa also just generally acts as members of anime production committees outside of owning Dogakobo. And I'll go into more depth about what this means in a second, but it's fair to say that Kadokawa plays a significant role in the anime industry, as well as Japan's film, live-action TV, books, manga, and video games industries. None of that really matters though, because Cool Japan Fund's investment here was specifically into the Kadokawa Contents Academy, in particular to enable it to expand into foreign markets. The Kadokawa Contents Academy is an education business which trains young artists in manga and anime techniques. So the Cool Japan Fund's investment was clearly aimed to help bring in new foreign talent to Japan, rather than to somehow manipulate the product of the anime industry's exports to paint Japan in a good light. In 2018, Cool Japan Fund established the Japan Contents Factory, or JCF. In this instance, JCF actually did have a direct hand in the production of anime, but in order to understand just what that was, I'm going to have to explain a little bit about how anime gets made. Anime costs money to produce. It recoups that cost and earns a profit much later through advertising slots during its TV airing, subscription fees paid to streaming services, and then through the sale of physical goods such as Blu-rays and collectibles. So if you want to make an anime, you need an initial investment to cover the cost of production, since you won't be making your money back for a while. Anime studios go to various producers to form a committee, with the producers investing money in exchange for certain rights. According to Makoto Kimura, a former executive at Studio Mappa, projects in the animation industry are quite complex and characterized by a web of intertwined rights. This isn't the case for every studio and every production. Studio Kyoto Animations, for example, self-funds all their anime. But it is generally the way the anime industry works. Anime studios are funded by various production companies who each own portions of the rights to any particular anime. The funding a studio will get for each anime depends on how much these production companies think they can make back by owning those rights. So for example, if you buy a Blu-ray of an anime, that money doesn't go to the anime studio, it goes to whoever owns the Blu-ray distribution rights in wherever you are to that show. And then potentially, if they make a good profit, they're likely to reinvest in that anime studio again, possibly to a higher amount. Even this is an oversimplification, it's an entire mess of debt and loans and rights. JCF did what's called bridge financing, offering a short-term loan to anime studios who already had pre-sale contracts with distributors. I think this was supposed to focus on international distribution, but I can't find any information as to what this actually achieved. This whole section is written in past tense because JCF ceased operations in 2024. So in this instance, the Cool Japan Fund actually did directly help to some extent to fund the production of anime, but it's unlikely that they had any significant say in the actual content of any particular anime, since they gave out loans based on contracts that already existed between studios and distributors. In other words, the distributors had already decided that they liked the look of a project enough to agree to distribute it, meaning the content of a show must have already been formulated by the time JCF had any involvement. So while Cool Japan Fund did have a hand in anime production for about 6 years, they were operating one financing company among many, hoping to make a profit on loans, with likely no real influence on the content of the anime itself. Pretty far from a shadowy cabal manipulating people's perception of Japanese history through anime. The final instance I can find of Cool Japan Fund being involved in anime in any way was in 2019 when they invested $30 million into Sentai Filmworks in exchange for shares in the company. Sentai Filmworks is an American anime distribution company who do localization and Blu-ray releases in the West. They also own a streaming platform called HiDive. $30 million is a lot of money, but bear in mind, according to my rough guess, just assuming that Cool Japan Fund owns that amount in every asset they've invested in, that comes out to just over $1,300 million in assets. In reality, they likely own more. So this investment gave Cool Japan Fund a controlling share in Sentai Filmworks, which they then sold to AMC in 2022. Once again, the Cool Japan Fund is definitely invested in distributing anime, but it's hard to imagine that one foreign distributor like Sentai Filmworks would make up a significant enough proportion of the funding for an anime to have a strong say in its production or content. So that was the Cool Japan Fund, the private equity firm. But maybe there's other aspects of the Cool Japan Initiative more broadly which have a stronger influence on anime. Well, the Cool Japan Initiative involves the Cool Japan Fund, Japan House, the Japan Arts Council, J-Fudo, the Japan Foundation, the Japan National Tourism Organization, the Japan External Trade Organization, the Visual Industry Promotion Organization, and the Broadcast Program Export Association of Japan. Those last two sound like they might be relevant, so let's dig a little more into them. The Visual Industry Promotion Organization, or VIPO, is a non-profit group with members spanning the entertainment industry. As far as I can tell, they primarily exist to facilitate connecting businesses together via networking events and industry conventions, both connecting companies in different industries or putting foreign and domestic businesses in contact with each other. If you were a foreign business looking to publish Japanese media, these are the guys you'd go through to get contacts in the Japanese industry. Or if you were a Japanese entertainment business in one area who needed talent or resources from another area, you could go through VIPO to attain that. Looking through their membership, they have 6 anime studios as members: Bandai Namco Filmworks, Nippon Animation Co., Polygon Pictures, Studio 4C, Tezuka Productions, and Toei. Even so, it seems that they've never really done any projects relating to TV anime. In fact, all I can see that they've ever been involved in is live-action films and fine art. So while they do explicitly mention promoting the Cool Japan Initiative, they're doing this through film and art and sometimes music, but not TV anime. Okay, so what about the Broadcast Program Export Association? Quite simply, they produce and distribute TV shows which promote Japan, mostly to other Asian countries. Usefully, they list everything they've ever made on their website, and I looked through all of it. It's almost entirely food and travel shows with precisely zero anime. Well, there were a couple of kids anime which were animated in Japan for foreign countries, but no full-length TV anime targeted at adults, the anime which you think of when you think of anime. It very obviously exists to promote tourism to Japan from other Asian countries. Okay, I'm getting sick of writing this script and I think I've been more than thorough. The Cool Japan initiative has absolutely nothing to do with Japan's war crimes and everything to do with tourism and exports. To the extent that Japanese media is promoted, produced, or distributed with any involvement from any organization within the Cool Japan initiative, it is almost entirely live-action TV, movies, music, and video games. Unsurprisingly, the boomers in the Japanese government want nothing to do with degenerate otaku shit like anime. The Japanese government is not creating "My Little Sister Can't Possibly Be This Cute" in order to distract you from Nanking. Anyone who promotes this idea should be considered a malicious conspiracy theorist and an idiot. To the extent that the Japanese government has produced anything explicitly to promote positive ideas about Japan, it has primarily been to other Asian countries because, big shock, they're the biggest foreign market for Japanese entertainment revenue-wise. Even with anime might be popular in the West, but it's not particularly profitable compared to the biggest foreign markets, which are China, Taiwan, and South Korea. Anime is not being used as a propaganda tool by the Japanese government. You just hate autistic people and have a racist Asian despotism stereotype stuck in your head. I believe that part of this conspiracy comes from people being unable to comprehend why anyone would just be earnestly passionate about something like anime, and concluding that there must be some sinister force at play underneath it all. Anime and Japanese media as a whole has a tendency towards cute and innocent things, and there seems to be this instinct to subvert anything that appears cute and innocent. And this is present in Japan too. Just look at dark subversions of magical girl anime like Madoka or Mahou Shoujo Site. But sometimes a cute thing is just a cute thing. Weirdos like me just genuinely like to participate in otaku subculture because it's exactly that, a subculture, one which has been around for about as long as punk. Japanese media is popular because of its genuine merits, not because of a shadowy government conspiracy.